What's up, everybody? So, over the last couple days, I've done some praying, and I got my girl here, Harley Quinn Craft, and this is Bob Craft. So, I've been getting contacted. I got contacted by a guy from Australia a couple days ago, and then today I got contacted by a gentleman from India regarding the ADHD stuff, and he's trying to start a nonprofit for kids who struggle with anxiety and stuff like that. And he wanted to collaborate a little bit, and I thought that was kind of cool. So I started thinking about it. I went for a walk with my girlfriend. I was telling her, I was like, it's interesting because I put all these philosophical things together, and I've kind of expressed that I learned about the law, but I also learned about philosophy, and I also learned about these other things. Oh, and by the way, I'm gonna start making videos not in my truck because I'm not a truck driver. Just so y'all know, my brother made a comment like, dude, it looks like you're a truck driver. I'm like, I know, but the sound is actually good here. Sorry about the glare. The beautiful sun is in Southwest Florida is kicking in. So, anyways, so I'm going to start making some other videos, but I just got a phone with someone who actually is going through pretty much the exact same situation that I'm going through, or I'm finishing up now at Charlotte County government in Charlotte County, Florida. And she was telling me, and I explained to her, and she's like, yeah, I know, but I don't quite understand. And I said, you know what? I said, I think I need to make a video or start making videos where I'm showing people like what my perception is or what the analysis is of statements and how people operate and what they're doing and how to counteract the conflict and stuff like that. So that's what I'm going to do. But this video is going to be on how I approach education. The reason that I'm going to do this video first is because in my history of my life, I've always been a teacher. So I was a substitute teacher for Charlotte County Public Schools. I was like volunteer of the year. I had some other accolades, whatever. I'm not a big accolades person, not a label person either. I'm not a certificate person. So I'm not really good with accolades, not really good with labels, not really good with certificates. I think they're overused, and I don't think they have any value, to be honest with you. So I also was a fire instructor, firefighting. I had taught firefighting from 2008 to 2015, and I was a EMT and paramedic instructor for Sarasota County Technical Institute, which is now Suncoast Technical College. I was a lead paramedic instructor, and I had a really fascinating experience teaching my guys. And here's the story behind it. So I started teaching fire, and then in 2013 I started teaching paramedic. And my friend Anthony Martinez, who's since passed, brought me in, and he was like, hey, we need an instructor, this, that, and the other. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll help out. I've never been a lead instructor or anything. Well, about 2 weeks before class started, I came to him and I was like, hey, so who am I going to be working with? I got these students and whatever. And he's like, no, you're it. Like, you're the instructor. You are the person. And I'm like, what do you mean? I'm like, I've never I've never done this. And he's like, well, no, like I've sat in your classes. I already know how you teach. I already know. And I trust you. If you have any questions, just ask me. But you're their instructor. There's no other instructor. So I looked at him and I said, so what you're saying is you put an anal retentive freak in charge of 7 people's educations. And he looked at me and said, yes. And I was like, okay. So it was kind of funny. I laughed because I'm like, wow, this guy just totally turned me loose. And I'm very analytical and very linear and very anal retentive when it comes to very important things that I want to drive my point home. So so I start class, right? First day, and the students had already heard, and that I had never taught a class. So I'm sitting there, and one of my students, in fact, I just saw this guy at church the other day. The guy said, hey, he goes, I heard that you've never taught a class. And he's like, I'm like, yeah, I've never taught. I mean, I've taught fire, I've taught EMT, I'm an American Heart Association, faculty instructor, which basically means that I could I could have revoked your card at any time if I felt like it, or you were doing something wrong, but that's a whole other story. So yes, I've never taught a paramedic class. And he's like, just get us through. Now, when people say things that go against your character and you just can't shake them? That's what this gentleman did. And he wasn't saying it to be mean. He was saying it because he was concerned that he was not going to get his proper education. So I went home that night, and I was, perseverating and vacillating and trying to understand, where the statement came from. And I finally got to the point where I was like, I'm going to say something, because that's what I do. I say stuff. I'm talking. And I said, so I get into class the next day, and I looked at him and I said, hey man, I said, I addressed the whole class on front, right? And I'm standing there and I'm like, where you said last class, like, just get us through? And, yeah. I said, I don't do that. I don't do just get us through. Like, I expect you guys to be perfect. And anything less than perfection is unacceptable. So that is the standard. There is no just get us through. There is, you will be perfect. And not only will you be perfect, but you are going to learn how to teach other people how to be perfect also. Because there is a failure in the EMS industry. In fact, from what I found out, there's a failure in every industry of the expectation of perfection. And I just can't, I'm not going to put my stamp on anything that's not great. And I understand that we can't be perfect, but we can try to be perfect. And if you're trying to be perfect and you're growing and you're learning, then you're moving towards perfection. And if anybody wants to fault you for that, then there's nothing wrong with that. But at least you gave it what needed to be given. So that's kind of how I look at things. And that's kind of where this is exactly where this video is coming from. So I had a learning curve. I'd never been in charge, and I'd never been completely responsible. And I'm an analytical, so I learned some things. And one of the big things that I learned about education was education is not a trick. Education's not a game. Education is to give people the information and then expect them to perform with that education that they have, right? So I kind of look at the world like this. So the whole world in my mind is very, very simplistic and logical. So this is how I look at the whole universe. We're computers, right? And we have two parts. This is not the blood and the water thing. This is actually how our brain functions. So that's a whole different matrix we're talking about. We talk about social interaction versus brain function. So there are two parts, right? So you have data, right? Data, here's data. Data, that's the information you have. It's inside you, right? It's what you've gathered in your experiences in life, right? Because we arrive with the wipe drive. Like we don't access anything. We don't have anything. It's all loaded on during our process of moving through the system, which is called life. So then you have data application, right? Because that's what a computer has, data application. In other words, the information that has been loaded onto your system and is in your hard drive has application. So it has places where it gets applied. Now, data application is separated into two separate parts. You have assessment and skills. In other words, assessment means you have determined that a skill that you have needs to be applied. So you apply the skill. Like going to your vehicle, right? Go into your vehicle. So most people, in the United States have key fobs now. So what are you doing? You're walking in the vehicle, right? And you get close, you get to a certain area and you click the button and you know which button to click, and the car unlocks and you get in the car and you have your little process, whether it's put the keys in because it's hot or whatever, and then you put your seatbelt on. You got your little process, right? Your little system that you run, right? Your little algorithm that moves. It's just an algorithm, right? You trained yourself through repetition to do these algorithms. So that's how, and then you have skills, right? These are the skills, right? So let me break down a skill for you. That's another simplistic one. You get a new car and someone hands you a key fob. It's a different key fob than you've ever used before, right? Because the key fob thing seems to be pretty simple for most people who have cars. So you get a key fob and you have to look at it to determine which one locks, which one unlocks, which one opens the trunk, which one is the start thing, the pre-start, whatever they call it. So you have to look at it. But you don't have to look at it forever. You have to look at it for a period of time until your brain automatically remembers which buttons go where. And then you can do it in the dark. So pretty much what that says is any skill that you can do visually, technically you should be able to do it in the dark if you learned it well enough. Okay, if you practiced it and you refined it. When I was a wrestler in high school, my coach used to tell me, my coach was awesome. He taught me a lot about life. He's probably there were two of the most influential coaches that I ever had. But these two, he was one of them that taught me a lot about precision, about poise, about audacity, about knowing when to do the right thing and not just muscling everything, but there's a certain articulate surgical mechanism to all out physical contact, especially in wrestling, right? Wrestling is one-on-one. It's one-on-one. You can't blame anybody. There's no one to blame. There's nobody else. It's you. Can you win? And can you take the losses? That's how wrestling is. And that's what he taught me, right? So your key fob, right? Once you've learned this skill and it's become automatic, right? It's loaded onto, let's say, a RAM drive or an instant access memory that you repeat, and you just repeat the skill, right? So then intelligence, where does intelligence fall in this? Because basically we're talking about dog behavior, right? We're talking about repetition. We're talking about learning a new trick, right? Because it's just a new trick. So intelligence comes from knowing when to use the skill. That's where, when do I use it? A question. See how questions become powerful? When do I apply this skill? Now, when you get beyond when, then you learn about where else can I apply this skill? Where else can I take this thing and make it part of everything? That's another level, right? That's where we should be headed. Okay, and then you create these algorithms that just repeat themselves over and over. So that's kind of where I've gotten, where I don't I don't really see conflict, and I don't really see social interaction or human interaction in the essence of it's a problem, or like I'm upset at the way people act or society, or I have anxiety. I don't have any anxiety. I don't have any anxiety because I understand the game, and I understand that I'm running the same algorithm, the same skill. I might modify it just a little bit for each particular part, but it's exactly the same. So, and that's really what my goal is to help other people learn that this is just a skill, and you don't need anxiety. You don't need to be upset. You don't need to be angry. You already know they're going to fail. They've been failing your whole life. So just expect them to fail, but learn how to win and learn how to empower yourself. Learn how to take your happiness back. Learn how to be free. Learn how to have liberty and what liberty means, and take possession. So that's what this is really about. So education, I had said earlier that education is not a trick. So my students would always come up to me and ask me about, they're always worried about tests. Like, I'm worried about tests. I'm worried about tests. I'm worried about tests. Well, when I used to prep for class, I would read I listened to the entire chapter. I would listen to the entire chapter, and then I would actually take the test bank, and so most testing systems that come out now, especially like Pearson, these big companies and stuff, they give you a student book. There's a student book, and they don't give out the teacher book. I don't know if you guys remember, like back in the day when we were young, they had teacher's books. Well, they don't have those anymore. What they do is they give you a disc. Two discs, actually. There's a support disc for the book, and then there is the test bank for the book. Well, in the support disc, there was like an instructor highlighted Word document, Microsoft Word document. What I would do is I would go through the book. I would read the whole book, or the whole chapter, whole thing. I would then highlight or note the things that I thought, hey, I need to make sure I point on this, I point on this, I point on this is important, this is important, this is important, right? Well, then I would actually take the test bank, because Anthony gave me the test bank, and I would integrate the test bank into the entire notes. And then I would throw out any bad test questions that couldn't be sourced. So when I did this, here's the interesting part. So before I did it, my lectures weren't very good. However, because they were too much, I was trying to give too much information. I was wanting to give them everything. Well, people can't handle everything. They only get what the points are because they're trying to learn so much. That's not really effective to think that they're going to learn everything instantly, especially through a lecture. We don't really learn anything in lectures. So what I did is I actually told them, I'm going to give you every test question you could possibly have. And I think they had taken 2 tests before that. Well, I noticed, so I did it. I gave them the lecture, and I paid attention to the test scores. And I said, I wonder how much their scores are going to go up. And this was interesting. Their scores only went up 10%. So people that were getting 70s got 80s. People that were getting 80s got 90s. People that were getting 90s. Nobody got 100, by the way. Tests they're pretty tough. So I got a 10% increase out of my students on testing. And it was funny because they would go to argue with me. So you know how after you take a test, if you guys have been in these classes, especially technical classes, after you take the test, like there's this like hour-long argument about if the test is good, if the question's good, if it's not, blah, 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 blah. Well, because I had sourced every test question, that whole hour never existed. It was taken away because I actually put a little code next to it that told me what test number it was, where it came from, and what page it could be found on. So I knew where to find it. So the argument stopped. No more arguing in class about test questions. Gone. Well, the other instructors at the institute decided, they were like, holy crap, that's awesome. So I started making folders And basically the instructors were just giving the same lecture and they were giving them all the test questions, right? So they were getting better. Well, I told my students, I don't care about your written tests. I don't care about what number you pick, or A, B, or C. I want to see you perform. I want to see you perform. That's how I know you're going to get it, because I'm going to push you to the limits and I'm going to have you perform, and you will perform. So that class was really good. I taught 2 full classes at SCTI or Suncoast Technical College. The first class was the first class that actually had a 100% pass rate from start to finish. It was the first class that actually they had all passed their training and their field training for their organization, and all of them were extremely successful paramedics. But they weren't paramedics because I taught them all this advanced stuff. It was because I focused on the foundation, right, which was called the patient assessment. An assessment, right, when to perform the skills. So that's what I'm gonna do. My field trainer at the fire department taught me see one, do one, teach one. Well, I've been talking a lot about ADHD and I've been trying to give answers to help people. What I realized is I'm telling you what to do, but I think I'm going to have to show you what to do. So I'm going to ask you guys to come for a ride with me. This is where we're going to go. I have some cases starting. I have some cases going on. I'm going to start posting videos of the stuff I'm doing, and I'm going to start posting my analytical evaluation of what I'm doing and what I'm perceiving in these things that are happening, including the emails. I won't give out any private information. However, if it's government stuff, you can go public records request it, and you can read the stuff yourself and get the names, because that stuff's that's open government right there. So, but I'm going to tell you I'm going to tell you the strategies. Now, most people would tell you, hey, you're talking about legal cases and you really shouldn't be, exposing what you're doing. Nope, not in this game. In this game, you don't have to come through the side door. To win this game, you walk right through the front door and then you punch them in the face. So I'm hoping this will be a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I enjoy life. I'm having a blast. I'm really excited. My girlfriend told me today I was laughing because some stuff happened today, and if you look at my regular Facebook page, I kind of gave a shin shot to Charlotte County government, because apparently now they've restricted tagging them, and I'm like, you guys just can't stop breaking the Constitution of the United States, can you? You're just really bad at it. I can't even believe it's the government. They call it government. It's not government. This is preschool, nursery school. I'm offended. I don't care if you're offended. Good for you. You crapped all over my stuff. You stole my property. You can be as offended as you want, because I'm coming to get it back. So, you guys can come on the ride with me, and we'll see where it goes, and maybe we'll have some fun. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I have a blast. My girlfriend today, I was dancing in the shower. Don't try and picture that. And it was funny because I sent a friend of mine a picture on YouTube, and if anybody's ever seen Peter Pan, Disney, where the alligator's sitting there and the alligator's dancing, right? He's got his mouth open, and he's dancing like he's ready to eat something because they're gonna feed him. Well, this Florida gator is getting ready to eat. So I hope you guys enjoy this ride, and let's have some fun.